Hi everyone, it's Carissa at Sprinkled with Glitter, and I am here today with a card project for you. I'm going to be using lots of dies and stamps on this card project, and there's quite a few steps, so I'm just going to jump right in. I've pre-cut a bunch of the elements for my card. I've pre-cut a couple of these hearts and the thank you heart from the Thank You Heart die set from Simon Says Stamp, and I've cut these out of some soft suede and early espresso cardstock from Stampin' Up! I've also used this flip card die from Sizzix to create my card base, and I'll show you how that's going to come together in just a bit. So I'll set that to the side. And I've pre-cut this circle using the Lifestyle Crafts Nesting Circles die, and I've cut this from the soft suede as well. So I'm going to set that aside. And then I'm going to be using these two stamp sets from Simon Says Stamp, and they are the Lots of Thanks stamp set and the Kelly Perky Thankful stamp set. So I'll go ahead and set all that aside and we'll get going on this card because there's quite a few steps. This is the card base, and I've cut this from a digital paper that I've actually printed out on my home printer. I like to use digital paper sometimes, especially if it's a pattern that I think that I'll use a lot of, and it just allows me an endless supply of this particular pattern of paper. Now, one thing you do have to keep in mind is that you do pay for printer ink when you print these. So while the digital elements tend to be rather inexpensive, you do have your own expense of the cardstock to print it on and also the printer ink. But this is cut from, this paper was cut using that card, the flip card die, and this actually folds just like this, and it creates the score lines for you. And that it creates your card base there. Just kind of score it on those lines, and then when you open it, it kind of does this little flip thing. So once you get those really nice and scored, then your card base works really well. I found that when I was messing around with these different things, that this circle is about a 3.5 inch circle, and one of my Lifestyle Crafts Nesting Circles dies fit just perfectly on there. So I'm going to actually use that to cover up the white back of this paper. I could have printed this paper two-sided because it is a paper that I did create on my home printer. I could have just run it back through the printer again, but I thought it would be just perfectly fine if I just cover up that white circle because most of the card elements are here and here. So I'm going to set my card base aside, and I'm going to pull in some of these elements that I'm going to be stamping and embossing. So this element, these two hearts here, I'll be using this Hero Arts wood grain stamp set to create a wood grain pattern on these. And I think I'll go ahead and do it on the soft suede circle as well, just to create some texture on these. So I'm going to ink up this wood grain background stamp with my Versamark ink pad. And then I'll stamp these elements and emboss them using a clear embossing powder. So I have this here, and I will just put that there. And then I can probably fit both of these on at the same time. Maybe not. I'm not going to risk it. I'll just use my scrap piece of paper to rub that ink all over there. Go ahead and put these, coat these using the clear embossing powder here. All of my pieces embossed now, and I'm going to go ahead and finish up all of my stamping elements, so I'll set these aside, and that way when it's time to assemble, I can just quickly assemble all of the pieces together on the front of the card. I have these two leaf stamps, and I don't know how well you can see them right now, but you'll see them when I stamp them, and I am going to actually stamp these in some more mustard ink on some more mustard cardstock. These two inks and colors are from Stampin' Up! So I'm going to stamp these a few times, and I've just gone ahead and mounted both leaves on the same stamp block so that I can easily stamp these quickly. And then what I'll do is I'll switch colors. So I noticed that as I was stamping these, I was missing a little piece of my leaf here, and it's either an inking problem or a pressure problem. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is try to switch over to my stamp press and stamp these on the back. And I just find that with my stamp press, it allows me to put the pressure exactly where I want it. So I'm gonna see if that helps and resolves my problem here. And this, like I said, the stamp press is a little thinner than a clear block, so it kind of allows me to really get the pressure in the points that I want to. And it looks like that did much better this time. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut all of my leaves out, actually 3 of each color, and I'll just trim right around the edge of each of these. So I've gone ahead and trimmed all my leaves out, and yes, that was quite a bit of fussy cutting, but it's done now, and I think the impact in the end is going to be worth it. And so what I can do is start actually assembling my card now. And so I'll bring my card base back in, and that's here. And I'm going to start by just attaching this wood grain piece, and I'm going to make the wood grain go vertically, just like this. So I'm going to try to keep that on that vertical line rather than have it at a slant, because So now that I have my circle attached, I'm going to go ahead and attach this thank you heart right onto the wood grain heart here. And I'm going to use my Tombow Mono multi-glue for that. Ideally, if in a perfect world, I would probably use some dimensional adhesive to adhere this to the heart. However, it's just so hot. This die cut is so delicate. It's just very difficult to cut your dimensional adhesive that thin, so liquid glue in this case is probably your best bet. And that just nestles right inside the heart, the solid heart. The solid heart's actually slightly bigger, so it's kind of nice because that just nestles right inside of there. Now I'm going to take some of these leaves, and where I've just adhered this down, because the glue is still wet, I'm going to slip some of these under this edge here. So I'll just kind of slip up this edge, and I'm just going to nestle a few of these leaves right under this heart edge, kind of coming out. You know what, on second thought, maybe I'll have them come out from behind the larger heart. I think I like that better. And I think that the easiest way to adhere these down is just to put the dimensional adhesive that I'll be using on the back of this heart, and then I can kind of sandwich it in there. So this heart is going to attach to the card base with this foam adhesive here. So I'll just cut some pieces of that, and then I'll go ahead and just expose this adhesive here, because I'm going to use that to actually help my leaves attach underneath the heart. So once I get these exposed, I'm going to take this and just kind of figure out where I want these and just kind of sandwich them to the back of this heart. And then this is ready to attach to the front circle of my card. Now, because this does have a swinging motion, I want to make sure that this heart edge is not going to catch this. So I am going to have to offset it slightly to this right hand side, and that's fine. So I'll just like that. And that way it allows this to still hinge open without this edge catching on that edge of the card. So now when I open this up, you're going to have this kind of exposed here. And I found that these leaves, and the reason that I've cut 6 of them, they're pretty symmetrical. So even when you flip them over, you can kind of achieve this really nice finished look from the back because they are so symmetrical. Now, if they weren't as symmetrical, you wouldn't be able to cover them up because, you know, the edges wouldn't match up in the reverse. So I have this. I am going to put another heart here. I will attach these on the card base first. So we'll go ahead and do that part. And this time I can go ahead and use some Tombow Mono multi-glue, And I'll just kind of create like a little line of glue over here. So you can see now that from both sides I have that nice finished leaf edge. And this will actually go over just as it has on the other side and cover up where that heart is. So I'll go ahead and attach that. This time I'm going to be using just my regular HEG flat adhesive. So I have that there, and I'm going to bring in another piece of this mustard colored cardstock, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. Now this is from the Lots of Thanks stamp set from Simon Says Stamps, and it says sending thanks from the heart, and I'm going to use this Early Espresso ink to stamp that on my cardstock. And I've already cut this piece of cardstock here down to about 7/8 of an inch. Lovely. I will just trim this at an angle here, just like that. And then this will attach to the heart over here. But I think I'm going to trim off just a bit more on this side here. And add a little button to the front of this card. I have some, you can hear me rustling around in the jar to get it, but I have some of these wood buttons from Stampin' Up! And I'm going to use some cappuccino twine from the Twinery, and I'm just going to thread this button and tie a bow. So I want to start actually going down from the top because I want my thread ends to end up at the top. So I'm going to thread down, and then I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to go to the hole that's directly next to it, not across from it, and bring the twine back up and through. I'm going to leave myself a good amount of twine to kind of tie this over here, so I'm going to leave an end over here. Then I will cross over across the button just like you would normally and come back up through that final hole, and then remove my needle here, and that will allow me to tie my button. Now, to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and use a glue dot to attach it to the front of my card, and that's going to allow me to have the button anchored down while I actually tie my little bow. Just makes it kind of a little bit easier. So that's going to attach right here to the front of my card. Kind of to the side, you can still read what it says, but it's just a little embellishment there. Looking at the inside of this card, and I really just feel like it needs a little something over here at the beginning of this sentiment just to kind of anchor the sentiment. And so I'm going to punch some mini hearts with this mini heart punch from Stampin' Up! Out of the soft suede paper. This also helps me to bring that other color of brown into the inside of the card. So I'm just going to punch 3 of these. So everything's better in odd numbers, right? And I'm just going to kind of nestle these kind of around over here. And what I think I'll do is add 2 of them kind of flat on the card, and then add the 3rd one with dimensional adhesive, so just kind of up like that. Okay, and that completes my Thanksgiving inspired card. Of course, you could use the same layout and design for any time of the year. You would just probably change your leaves out. But I thought this was a fun card and using some fun products from Simon Says Stamp. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a happy Thanksgiving.